Welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, the world's #1 community for brilliant childcare leaders. Each episode will feature interviews with the brightest minds in the childcare industry to guide you into becoming a smarter business leader. Our hosts have opened 10 schools while raising 5 children. They are certified business coaches, best-selling authors, and have personally helped thousands of childcare owners around the world achieve incredible growth. Let's welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, Brian and Carol Dupre.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Childcare Genius Podcast.
We're your hosts, Brian and Carol Dupre, and you're going to need a seatbelt for this episode. So strap yourself in. It's going to be an amazing one. Before we get started, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a future episode. And before we get started today, I want to tell you about a masterclass we're offering on July 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We've assembled an all-star panel of childcare millionaires, people who have recently all sold their school for huge paydays. Wouldn't you like to know what they know?
Visit our website right now at thechildcaregenius.com to register for this masterclass or for more information, and space is limited. If you're listening to this episode after July 13th, 2022, then you can visit our website to watch the replay.
So I'm excited for today's episode. Our guest today is Kathy Ligon. Kathy is the owner of Hinge Advisors and specializes in helping owners buy and sell childcare businesses.
Kathy was a podcast guest in season 1, and it was one of our most popular episodes. So we decided to bring her back for season 2.
I just love Kathy Ligon. She truly wants to help people. And there are so many phony people in the world that all they want to do is go out and make a quick buck at the expense of others. I can assure you, Kathy is not one of those people. She's helped dozens of my former coaching clients to buy and sell schools. And no, I've never heard a negative thing about her.
Now let's get Kathy on the line.
Welcome to Childcare Genius Podcast. Kathy Ligon, how are you today?
Hello, my friends. I am doing great. I'm so glad to see you again. Thank you for having me back.
You were one of the most popular episodes in season 1 in We Did Childcare Millionaire Podcast, which was season 1. Childcare Genius Podcast is season 2. And we wanted to bring you back because I'm getting a lot of questions from our audience about selling their school. And I was like, might as well bring in the expert on sales into the podcast early. And we could focus the whole episode strictly on selling. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you live? And in case they didn't see the first episode, tell us a little bit about Kathy Ligon.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'd love to start with the fact that this is my 36th year in the industry. So I live in South Carolina. I was a young public accountant with 2 little babies who were in childcare when tax season became overwhelming for me. So I heard that the 5-site early education group where they went to school needed some help with their financial work. So expecting to be there about 10 minutes, I went over and ended up there 18 years, and we grew them to 120 schools. And the industry just really got in my blood. I know you guys know that too, because you've done a lot of cool things in the industry too, but I had the opportunity to go from a financial to an operations to a growth role. And then this is my 19th year as growing Hinge Advisors to help other people either grow their company or exit their company. So what you're talking about today is just absolutely my very favorite thing to talk about.
Well, good, because you're going to help a lot of people, because there's some people struggling out right now and they maybe want to get out, or like us, been here 25 years, they might be tired, or just, the pandemic has tired a lot of people out. Maybe just want to get out of the business. We hope that's not the case, but if they do want to sell, we want to make sure they'll hook them up with the expert. So what's the biggest mistake, Kathy, that you're seeing when owners are making when they're thinking of selling their school?
I think you just hit the nail on the head with the biggest mistake, although it's not a complete barrier. But when we get the phone call that says, I'm so tired, I can't move another day, things are not going well, I have a health issue. So timing to me is the most, the biggest mistakes, also the best opportunity. So the best opportunity to sell is when you're at your very best, because performance-wise, the value of a company is built off of its cash flow. And when you're your strongest is when you have the strongest cash flow. And we love to work with people even years before they want to exit so that we can help them maximize that number. So the first, and it's counterintuitive though, right? So you're doing really well, grant monies are flowing in, and you've got your team rocking, and it's just, you're staying home a big part of the day, and it's counterintuitive to think this might be the time to exit, but that's actually the very best time. So also wrapped up in timing is the aggressiveness of the market. We're in a very aggressive selling market right now. Buyers are hugely competitive. We've had the pleasure to bring several of Europe's largest providers into the US, so that international competition has also driven prices up. So to know where the market is and how it's looking at our industry and how it's pricing our industry is important. To look at tax considerations are important. We had a little fear last year around what might happen with capital gains rates. As we've seen, that hasn't really materialized, but to know what the tax environment is important. And then the last thing I'll say, and this all wrapped up with timing, is that continue to grow, whether it's growing internally with maximizing your enrollment, or whether it's adding a new program or a second or 10th school, to keep growing and show the energy of the company, and its ability to grow always brings excitement. So I would wrap all that up in taking advantage of the important timing in the market.
Awesome. That's awesome. Love that.
So can you give us 3 tips for our listeners that they can implement right away to help them prepare their school for sometime in the future for selling it?
Ooh, really good question. There are a couple of basic things that people can do way ahead of time that sometimes take a little bit of time. And I would suggest all business owners do and have ready. And one thing is, you never know when a good opportunity might come your way, either to grow or to sell. And so to be ready with some of the basics is a great idea. First of all, I would say prepare your internal team to live without you. And to me, it's like raising your children. Your main job is to work yourself out of a job, right? So what you want to do is to be as attractive as possible. A new owner wants to know that you can walk away and major relationships and major job functions won't be sacrificed. So really grow your team to not only survive, but thrive without you. And a strong team will almost push you to do that. They'll want to be able to do more and more and more. And one of the advantages of a larger potential buyer is the opportunity it might bring that team. So the first thing to me is to grow and prepare your team to do really well without you. The second thing I would say is, this is really basic, but have your systems and financial data in order. You need to be able to provide accurate, timely financial data, not just for the valuation period, but all along the process. And when you can do that, and you can show progress, and you can show data clearly and quickly, that enhances value. So even if you outsource that, to be able to produce monthly financial statements, accurate enrollment data, information about your team, pay rates, things like that, just get your systems and financial data in good shape. And then you asked me for 3. So the third one, this is important too. Create your advisor team. And by advisor team, we believe that every seller needs to have 3 people. They need to have a CPA that understands their books and how transactions might affect them personally. They need an attorney, preferably one who manages transactions, not so much a litigator or a specialist in another area, but in a perfect world, someone that knows transactions. And then the last thing, of course, is an advisor that we obviously believe that an advisor that has a focus on the industry is your best opportunity. There's some very specific nuances to each individual industry that a generic person might not know about and might not pay enough attention to. So go ahead, even if you just interview, people are happy to talk to you. Have in your hip pocket, whether you engage them now or not, a CPA, a transaction attorney, and an industry-specific advisor or broker.
Excellent. Great advice. Thank you, Kathy. So what is the actual process? What's the normal process for listing a school for sale?
Okay, usually, well, not usually, always. So when we have an interested person that wants to list their company, our first step is to get to know them. So we want to talk to them very specifically about who they are, what they want to accomplish, what their timeline is, what their hopes and dreams are for the exit, what they want to do when they exit, and to be sure, excuse me, that we can meet their goals. Everybody isn't a good fit for everybody, and we have a very high close rate, more than 95%. So getting to know someone is really important, and knowing that you can meet their objectives. So valuation is the next step. So we perform valuations free of charge. You should find that with an advisor that is interested in working with you. We perform a valuation, then we advise that seller on how the market would see their school today. We don't name prices today. We used to in the past, but for the last 5 years or so, we don't name prices on our transactions. The market will set the value. And the reason we don't do that is when you're in an expanding, aggressive market like this, we can very often leave money on the table. And a lot of times we'll see one specific buyer, they might get 10 offers, but one buyer will just really kick it up and they'll say, I want that school, and I really want that school, and I'm willing to price up for it. So to get your valuation done, and then the next step would be to discuss with your advisor, again, how someone would view that particular opportunity, who some of those buyers might be, and how they behave in a process, and really importantly, what their culture fit is. Because equally important with getting the right value for a company is matching up a buyer's culture, because they're going to keep all of your team, all of your families. They do not want to sacrifice that business that they just paid money, hopefully a lot of money for, and to know that they're going to not only meet your culture, but hopefully enhance it is really critical. And everybody's not a culture fit with everybody. And then after you get through all of that and you know that you have a good fit, then you would negotiate a listing agreement with your advisor and move from there to launch. So we put a lot of resource and time into our listings before you actually get to a listing agreement. But that's a great question.
Awesome.
Can you tell our listeners how they can reach you if they're thinking of buying or selling?
Absolutely. Well, all of our contact information is on our website at hingeadvisors.com. I can be reached at Ligon at hingeadvisors.com. It's K for Kathy, Ligon. And my phone number's there on the website. I can get the right person to speak with anyone that has a request. And I'm not the expert in everything, but I have a team of about 14, and there's somebody that is. So just reach out to me through the website. Be happy to talk with you.
Kathy, we'll put that contact information in our show notes so you can follow it at the bottom of the episode here. And every time we have a guest on, we like to ask them what their favorite, we ask them a mindset question. So your question is, what's your favorite mindset or positive mental attitude book that you like?
Oh, I love that question so much because this is where I get my best book ideas, Over probably 30 years, there have been several mindset books that have just been life-changing for me. And probably the most recent one, although it's not even recent, I would love somebody to tell me what their most recent one was, but I think The Alchemist is Paulo, I might not get the last name right, but Colo or something like that. It's a very quick read, but life-changing book for me. And if you don't mind me just spitting out a couple of others over time, the first one was probably Seven Habits, Stephen Covey. There was A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and a little known book called Power versus Force by David Hawkins. So if I had to say over time, those four have just changed the nature of my whole thought process and way of behaving and being. And I'd recommend any of those four.
Love that. Power of the mindset.
And each week we read a question from someone who needs mentoring. And this week's question comes from Simone from Kansas, and we have saved the question for you.
So it says, Simone, dear Brian and Carol, after 25 years in the business, I'm tired and ready to sell. I get a lot of these emails. How do I list my business for sale without my parents freaking out and my employees abandoning me? I think that's probably what most people are scared over.
Oh, they are, Simone. That's such an important question. I forget to address this, and let me tell you why. You're right, that it's probably people's number one concern when they think about going there. And in reality, it's one of the least issues if the process is managed correctly. And let me explain that. So one of the reasons that you want to have an industry-specific broker is that nothing gets marketed publicly through an industry-specific broker. We require confidentiality agreements from prospective buyers before they even know who the company is. And we're going directly to the buyer and the person on that team that controls that process. So we have over 500 buyers in our database, and we know them personally. We've closed transactions with a lot of them, and we're going directly to that person for a signed confidentiality agreement that legally binds them to not speak about it. But also, if you think about it from a buyer's perspective, if they might buy this company, they have just as much to lose as the seller if information gets out in an uncontrolled way. There's a time and a place for positive information, but it's way after all the diligence is done and contracts are agreed to and you're about ready to close. So that's a key step. Be sure that people are going to confidentially. There's certain ways to tour schools that preserve confidentiality, and we have many of those. So I can name a few, but there are a lot in there. But there's very specific ways to bring people to see the school that also preserve confidentiality. And all along the way, you tightly control information. You coach people, outside vendors like licensing and the person that does the building inspection. You coach them until they're tired of you hitting them in the head with the fact that nobody here knows this and you only talk to this one person. And all along the way, you take extra steps and you know where the potential issues might be, and you mitigate those with coaching and legal documents that preserve that confidentiality. So we almost never have a breach of confidentiality. And when it does happen, and I can't even remember the last time, to be honest, there's certain ways you can handle that as well. But even though it's an important question, it's the number one concern. It's one of the least issues in running a transaction if you do it right.
And thank you, Kathy, because I'm sure that's going to alleviate the concerns of a lot of people, for sure. And thank you, Simone, for that amazing question. And do you have anything else that you want to share, Kathy? We have about another minute left in our time. You've done an amazing job here.
I'm just, I'm always thrilled to talk about this, but I appreciate you guys having me back. I love the work you're doing. I love your new brand. It's so exciting. And thank you for the opportunity to be here and share with your community.
Well, thank you, Kathy Ligon, for coming on the Child Care Genius podcast. Hope to see you at a conference later in the year. Excited about getting together live and sitting down and catching up.
Right.
And
thank you.
Enjoy
very
that
much.
weather down south,
It's hot, but thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank
you so much. Bye.
Kathy really knows her business, doesn't she?
Yeah, she is an expert in this industry. And I really like what she had to say. She had some great tips about getting ready to sell for schools. And I think we've helped a lot of people in our audience today who's thinking of selling. Hope that's their first call when they want to sell. So just a reminder that our upcoming masterclass on July 13th at 1 o'clock Eastern, our all-star panel, we talked about financial secrets that they had in their businesses. So go ahead and register right now. And I'm excited about the masterclass. It's going to be great.
And we're proud to have you as members of the Child Care Genius community. And thank you for listening today. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of the services we offer.
And this concludes episode 2 of the Child Care Genius podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a future episode. And we will see you again real soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Child Care Genius podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please do us a favor and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a future episode. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of services we offer to help your childcare business grow. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the Child Care Genius community.